what I've seen over the years, even in my own attempts to lose weight, is that we focus so much on the calories in, calories out, or the type of workout that we're doing, that we forget that the approach needs to be flexible enough to fit within the changes of our routine, as we mature, as we grow, as our lifestyle starts to look different.
Let's link up with Krysta on The Fix. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
What's up, Fix listeners? Welcome back to our latest episode of the Fix podcast. I'm your host, Krysta Huber, and I've got a follow-up episode from last week's episode where I gave you guys a little bit of a homework assignment, as I like to do with my one-on-one Fitness Fix clients. And that, just in case you missed it, was answering the question of what do you need to let go of to achieve the results that you desire? Now, I posed this question in a training that I led with my clients just a few weeks ago, in asking them to just really reset, shift focus from the summer going into the fall, and set ourselves up to maximize the remaining few months that we have out of this year to set some new goals and think about not just what you need to do, not just the action steps that you need to take to achieve them, but what you need to let go of, in particular, some of the stories that you may be telling yourself and holding on to. And I asked both my clients and those of you who listened to last week's episode to write it down. And if you felt compelled to share it with me, I wanted to hear what you were committing to letting go of. And I got a bunch of DMs. I put a little question box up on my stories on Instagram and had several people reply. So I took the top 7 responses that I got, several of which were repeats. So I condensed them into one little list. And I'm going to go through each of these and help change your perspective. So maybe you're not even the person who wrote this exact thing and contributed to me, but I do find that so many of the women I work with inside of the Fitness Fix community have a lot of things in common when it comes to the self-limiting beliefs that come up. So I can guarantee that even if you missed last week's episode, even if you didn't personally do this exercise, hopefully this follow-up conversation here inspires you to think about, if you do relate to any of these stories and narratives, can you too work to create these shifts? And what might you need to let go of in your own life? Or how can you apply these examples to your own life to let go and ultimately then take steps forward to get what you want? So we're going to dive right into it. First up, things we are letting go of. I picked a big one to get started. And we are letting go of the idea of people pleasing and the need to people please. This is such a big one. In my personal opinion, I think that at the root of women feeling that they have this obligation to be selfless and feeling that it's selfish for them to take time for themselves, to have a routine, to speak up when they need something. I feel that a lot of that actually stems back to this idea of people pleasing and feeling like that you don't want to ruffle any feathers, or you want to show up in a way that's convenient for other people, even if it's at the expense of yourself. And when it comes to your fitness and nutrition journey and the goals that you're trying to reach, that can take on really small examples, but those small examples have profound impacts on the results you're looking to get. So let me give one of those small examples to make this clear. The client who shared this with me, she actually brought this up and I loved it. And it's the fact that, like, you don't speak up when you want to go to a certain restaurant, or you don't see something on the menu of the restaurant that everybody's suggesting that you go to that is really going to fit with your goals and the things that you want. It seems like you're not really sacrificing that much. Like, in your mind, you might be like, okay, yeah, like I can figure it out. And yes, you can figure it out at pretty much any restaurant. But it comes down to the fact of, like, what if you don't even want to go out to eat? You guys know, if you've been listening to this for a long time, if you followed me on social media for a long time, I am a huge proponent of being social, of living your life, but I am also a proponent of recognizing that there are seasons of sacrifices and compromise, and what is technically very low hanging fruit in reducing the number of meals out you have per week. That's something that in the summer, especially, a lot of people cave to and just kind of say, oh, well, like I'll worry about it in the fall. I want to be more social right now. Or, oh, this is just easier and more convenient. How about no? How about putting your foot down and saying, this is what I planned. This is what's going to work for me today. And this is the way it's going to go. If that feels uncomfortable for you, if that somehow comes across as bossy or controlling, then you are likely the person who has fallen into that people-pleasing trap. And it's something you definitely want to examine in your day-to-day. It could be compromising on your schedule, right? Like maybe you set up a specific time to go to the gym, and then somebody in your family asks you to do something for them, or a friend needs something, or something changes with certain plans that you made with other people and they want you to adjust it. My challenge to you is to just see what it might feel like if you say, hey, I committed to XYZ. Tell them you're going to the gym. Tell them, like, I need to go get XYZ done. Maybe it's for the sake of you getting a better night's sleep. All things that contribute to your fitness and nutrition goals and you losing weight and feeling your best and feeling confident and energized. And just say, hey, like, sorry, but I committed to this, whatever, fill in the blank. And I would still love to meet at the same time. Or can we even rain check for another day? If the person cares about you, if the person respects you, they will understand. And half the time they do. But if you're a people pleaser, you're not even giving them the opportunity to show you that they respect and understand and are more than happy to be accommodating to your goals. Because look, they're asking you to accommodate them in some way. So if it's a true quality relationship, that's going to go in both directions. So no more people pleasing for the rest of 2024. Number 2, we are letting go of attempting to control the uncontrollables. I love this one so much. I love all of these. So I will probably say that like 5 more times in the rest of the episode. But let's talk about the impact of trying to control things that we can't control. Doesn't even matter what we're talking about. What's the domino effect that has on your health and wellness? It's stress. And that's because if we establish that there is something that is out of your control and you are sitting here continuing to worry about it, you are creating unnecessary stress and you're causing a response in your body that is not necessary and certainly will not help you if you are on a mission to lose body fat, build some muscle, feel stronger, have more energy, you name it. Learning to literally let go, right? Like we're letting go and truly like letting go in every sense of the word requires you to recognize what is really worth getting yourself worked up about, stressed out about. And if we can establish that it's something that's beyond your control, it ain't it. And the one thing you can control, if you can't control whatever the situation is that's unfolding, you can control how you respond to it. And how you respond to it is going to help you build the resilience for the next time you may be in that situation. It's going to help you build a little bit more neutrality to circumstances that may have gotten you really worked up in the past. And that's a level of growth that will serve you in every aspect of your life, because in a way, you actually have more control because you're not letting these outside things dictate your emotions, how you feel inside, and the decisions that you then make too. Next up, getting a little bit more into the dieting side of things and kind of getting into the whole concept of diet culture. We are letting go of any preconceived notions or rules about the type of diet or the specific approach that you quote unquote have to take to get results. Here's the secret. The best diet the preferred diet to get you the results that you want, it only has to have one feature. And that is the fact that it's something that you can stick to and maintain. Because one of my favorite little phrases is how you get there is how you stay there. So I find this is a very common theme when I'm talking with people who are considering joining our program. I, of course, ask the question, what have you tried in the past to lose weight? And one of the realizations that's so powerful to draw for yourself is if you tried something in the past to lose weight, but you're still attempting to lose weight right now today, there is a reason, or likely a multitude of reasons, that that method doesn't work for you anymore. It did at some point. Okay. And that doesn't necessarily mean it was a quote unquote bad approach either. But if it worked for you, it would have continued to work for you to maintain your results. Or maybe you're just in a different season of life where that approach was more doable at that time when you had a different schedule, different responsibilities, different stressors. And that's okay. That's why when we take a truly holistic approach to our wellness, as we do inside of the Fitness FYX, that's why we care about stress. We care about sleep. We care about hunger cues. We care about understanding your digestion. We care about your hormones. We care about your gut health, as well as what you're putting into your body, the way you talk to yourself. We care about all of these things because what I've seen over the years, even in my own attempts to lose weight, is that we focus so much on the calories in, calories out, or the type of workout that we're doing, that we forget that the approach needs to be flexible enough to fit within the changes of our routine, within as we mature, as we grow, as our lifestyle starts to look different. And most of the time, we don't know how to change it because we're only looking at things in like the confines of this like very specific timeline and saying, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 to 4 months to get to the certain goal. And once I get there, then I'm good. And you actually don't pay attention to the choices you're making along the way, the habits that you're choosing, the exclusion of the carbs, the restriction of certain calories, the saying no to social events, the doing 6+ days a week of cardio. It's almost like you get to the goal and then you're like, okay, like I actually didn't like doing any of that. So I'm just going to throw that out the window and then hope that I maintain my results. That makes absolutely no sense. And when I explain it that way and you can look at it from that like outsider's perspective, you're like, yeah, no shit. That actually doesn't make any sense. And yet you find yourself in this feedback loop of being like, oh, well, if I want to lose weight starting tomorrow, let me go back to like 4 years ago when I was barely eating any carbs and I was just eating tons of protein, and I'll do that again. And then a week goes by, you get stressed out at work, something happens with one of your kids, you get into an argument with your partner and you're like, I want my carbs. Okay. We just identified a reason why that past approach just doesn't fit for you anymore. And that's okay. And rather than forcing going back to something that's just not going to fit right now, let's adjust. Let's move forward. Let's not look back because we're not going that way. Number 4. This is a great one. It's a very tangible one. Things we're letting go of are size 0, size insert whatever. That's like a much smaller version of you. Jeans. Stop holding on to items in your closet that you know are too small for you, that you've convinced yourself you're saving once you get to a certain weight. And I'll caveat that by saying this. You might have like a certain dress or shirt or something that you just absolutely love so much. You've had it for years. You don't want to part with it. And realistically, maybe you could fit into it someday. But if you're a size 8 and you want to get down to a size 0, let's just be real honest here. Chances are the timeline that it'll take for you to do that in a way that you can truly sustain it, whatever it is that you're holding on to that's a 0, is probably not going to be in style anyways. Now, let's say we're talking about jeans and those are timeless. The point of this is to say, can we get excited about the idea of you being able to go buy new jeans, even if they're a 6 or a 4, versus you telling yourself this story that you will not be successful until you hit a size 0? Because if that is your thought process, I promise you, you will not allow yourself to celebrate the milestones that you make along the way. And you're going to get to this place of feeling like it's never enough. And half the time, if you tell yourself the story of like, oh, this is not enough and I'm not enough and I need to keep going, you will find yourself on that dieting roller coaster where you achieve the results, you maintain it for a little bit, and then you take like 3 steps back. What if we could just achieve the results and maintain them without taking 3 steps back? That comes down to, again, leaving things in the past that are meant to be left in the past, a lot of which can be your clothes. And why not use this as an opportunity to get excited about going and buying new clothes once you lost a little bit of weight? No one's saying that you need to accept the fact that like, hey, like maybe you need to go buy a whole new wardrobe. That could be a great motivation for losing weight. You could be at that point where you're like, I'm at a place where I don't want to buy new clothes because I don't want to go up the next size. Good. Then let's get cracking. Let's get focused and get to work on finding the method for you that is this, again, holistic approach in helping you achieve the results that you want, but also looking forward to that new wardrobe that is going to come in once you've gotten there. Number 5, we are letting go of perfectionism. This came from a client after the training we did. And even more specifically, she pointed out that not only did she want to let go of perfectionism, but she wanted to let go of the fact that the process doesn't need to be perfect of her getting to where she wants to go. We can live in what I like to call a little bit of the gray area. We can enjoy ourselves with socializing with friends, having the drinks, going out to eat, but also recognizing that that may just look more like a maintenance period and that the scale isn't going to consistently drop and drop and drop. And it actually doesn't require you to have absolutely perfect macros if you happen to be tracking your food for you to get the results you want. And this one's important because for as much as I like to provide the structure of saying to a client, hey, we're tracking our food. If we want to consider it a perfect day, then we want to be somewhere within plus or minus 5 grams for your carbs, for your protein, and for your fat. That's just to give you a target to hit so that we're not totally up and down. We're like, one day we're negative 20 grams over of our carbs. The next we're 2 grams over. The next day after that, we're like 10 grams under in our fat, because ultimately that doesn't help you like have a barometer for what consistency actually looks like. But within that, it is not worth making yourself crazy to be like, oh my gosh, if you're a MyFitnessPal user, you're going to know exactly what I mean. I need to see 0, 0, 0 across the top of MyFitnessPal, because you don't. Because us knowing your calorie deficit is not an exact perfect science. Why? Because there are other things that can create a calorie deficit, like moving your body. Is exercise the best way to create a deficit? It's not as much of a needle mover as food and nutrition and calorie intake, but getting sleep is also a factor too. Recognizing that we don't have this like exact 100% perfect macro calculator out there that's like, if you eat X amount of protein, carbs, and fat, this is going to put you in a deficit. And if you go even just a couple calories over, you're not going to be in one. If you train your brain to think that way, that is going to lead you to have a poor relationship with food tracking. And it's actually missing the beauty of the tool, because the beauty of the tool is to give you the flexibility to estimate a little bit. Why? Because when you actually understand the nutritional value of your food, you have more confidence going out to eat, because maybe you do think a little more strategically, not about what you're going to order at dinner, but what you're going to do the rest of your day. So if we convince ourselves that food tracking needs to be this perfect story all the time, we're actually missing the value of where it really comes in to help you live your life more flexibly, because it's just kind of there as like a check, like a fail safe, so to speak. Got 2 more. Comparison to other people. A client shared with me that she has this inner monologue she notices in her head sometimes that sounds a little bit like, why are other people losing weight when it seems like in comparison to my effort, they're not doing much? And here I am doing all of the things and I'm not losing weight. Now I want to make 2 points on this one. First, you don't really know everyone's whole story. So on the outside, while you may think they're not doing that much to lose weight, you don't know the ins and outs of what they're doing behind the scenes. You also don't know what their genetics are like. You don't know how metabolically flexible they are. You don't know how much sleep they're getting. You don't know the relationship that they have with food that could just be different than yours. It's so nuanced that you're simply doing yourself a disservice by comparing yourself to other people, because in the long run, it's your journey, not theirs. And if we've already established that how you get there is how you stay there, the emphasis is on the word you. So let that person who seems like they're not doing a whole lot go do their thing, because there's also a possibility that whatever they might be doing right now isn't going to work for them in a couple of years. And if you're here and you're listening to this podcast, you are looking for your last solution. You are looking for your lifelong solution. And in the beginning of that process, that actually may feel like a lot of effort because we're adopting new habits, we're taking on new behaviors, and in doing so, we're actually challenging you to take on a new identity. But guess what? The effort that you put in the beginning is what makes it easier in the long run. Let's go back to food tracking as an example on this one again, because it's such a good one. There are so many people who have such a strong perception that food tracking is time consuming and tedious. And it's always the people who have only done it for like a week, maybe a month. Because think about it. The more you do it, the faster you're going to get at it. You'll know the buttons to click. You'll know the right portion sizes for you and your goals and the macros that are assigned to you. You might even start eating the same food so you can literally copy and paste things from one day to the next. I could track an entire day of food in like 2 minutes. 5 years ago, I couldn't do that. And yes, did it feel like I was spending more time on my phone mapping things out in the way beginning? Of course. But I'll also tell you that working with a coach made that faster, because just like I do with our one-on-one clients, I have hacks and tips on how to simplify tracking and how to make it quicker, and how to even simplify your approach to meal prep so that the tracking piece is even easier. Those are the shortcuts that we should all be after, because those are the shortcuts to make the behavior more tolerable and much easier, to the point where that behavior just becomes a part of who you are. And that actually segues very nicely into the last one, which is we are letting go of assuming that we're not capable of doing something before we even try it. Once again, let's go back to a childhood example. Before you rode a bike, were you convinced that you'd never be able to ride a bike? Sure, maybe you had that thought for a little bit, but then what did you start doing? You start practicing, you ride your bike with your training wheels, and then eventually those training wheels will come off. And what's the only way the training wheels are coming off and you then becoming successful at riding a bike is for you to do the thing, maybe even fall off the bike, maybe even scrape your knee, maybe even stumble a little bit, but getting back up and doing it again and again. You are selling yourself short if you assume that you can't do something before you've even tried it. So we're absolutely letting go of that mindset as we move through the rest of September. So if anybody has any others that you didn't submit, maybe you missed last week's episode and you want to shoot me one, send me a message at the Krysta Huber over on Instagram. Let's talk about it. I love, love, love hearing from all of you who reached out to me to send me these. So thank you so much. Hope this episode was helpful. And I don't always do this at the end of my episodes, but a little reminder, if you like the show, of course, I always mention when we have a guest, like, please share it. But it does help us if you leave reviews. So if you've been here for a while, or maybe this is your very first episode and you just stumbled upon the fix for the first time, welcome. We are so happy to have you. But take 2 seconds, leave a review, maybe even drop a comment. The more we have, the more the show gets shared with other people. So with that, from wherever you're listening from, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you guys next week.